Pavel Durov, Russia's version of Mark Zuckerberg.
We were requested to ban these communities by the government, and I refused.
What is Toncoin? And does it have connections to the Kremlin and Vladimir Putin? I'm not a financial advisor. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, the BitBoy. If you want to learn more about crypto and how to play the crypto markets to put you and your family in a better financial position, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you find value in this video, and I think you're going to. So let's look at a project that's getting a ton of attention. What is Toncoin? And does it have connections to the Kremlin and Vladimir Putin? I put together a scrub down of everything you need to know in order to understand Ton and what it could have to do with BRICS Pay. Starting with Pavel Durov, Russia's version of Mark Zuckerberg. He started a social media website called VKontakte, or VK, that ended in his extradition out of Russia, or so he says. Check out this interview with my pal Tucker Carlson.
2011, when we faced our first issues in Russia. Because you see, I was still a big believer in these values of free market, freedoms, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. So when the Russian opposition started to use VK to organize large protests in Russia, where like almost 500,000 people would go and protest on the main square or some of the main squares of the city, we were requested to ban these communities on VK by the government, and I refused.
And then it happened again.
In 2013, we had a similar situation where you had these protests in Ukraine, where people again would use VK to organize themselves and go to the main square of the city and show their disagreement with the government.
Yes.
And we received a request/demand from the Russian side saying you have to give us the private data of the organizers of these protests. And our response was, wait a minute, this is a different country. We won't betray our Ukrainian users because you ask us to do that. And we decided to refuse, and that didn't go too well with the Russian government as well.
Pavel Durov says what happens next is he's offered a choice.
I had to make a difficult decision because I was offered basically a choice between two suboptimal options. One of which was I would start complying to whatever the leaders of the country told me to do. The other one was I could sell my stake in the company, retire, resign as the CEO, and leave the country. I chose the latter.
So if you take it all at face value, here's what happened. Pavel Durov, the founder of Russia's most popular social network VK, refused to comply with the Kremlin's order to block opposition groups and was eventually forced to relinquish control of his company. He fled Russia and now lives in exile, relieved to have his freedom and the ability to focus on his new encrypted messaging app, Telegram. He says he will never comply with any government's request to block content. Sounds pretty good, almost too good. Because after all, does someone really get to just leave Russia with 9 figures without staying connected to the Kremlin?
I have heard people say that Telegram is a part of the Russian government, and you're describing the opposite. You're saying you had to leave the country because you wouldn't bow to their demands.
Exactly, like you're saying, people who have very limited knowledge of where Telegram came from, they would make these claims. They could be encouraged by our competitors who see it as an easy way to discredit us because, Telegram is spreading like forest fire. 2.5 million users sign up every day, and we're sort of a threat.
2.5 million users sign up on Telegram every day. And Durov is the CEO. He says he maintains control over Telegram and its development direction. But Telegram is a private company. Because of that, its shares are not publicly traded, and it becomes difficult to pin down the exact ownership structure. While Durov maintains a large stake, it's possible that other investors or smaller partners have smaller shares. Maybe even the kind of investors that mine the majority of the Telegram blockchain's Toncoins at launch. And I'll get into that next, so stay tuned. The company has not disclosed this information publicly. There have been rumors of a potential initial public offering, or IPO, which would make Telegram a publicly traded company, which would require disclosing ownership details, but as of now, no IPO has been confirmed. How mysterious. An article in WorldCrunch says that despite denials by its founder, new signs indicate that the messaging and social platform Telegram may be orchestrated by the Russian intelligence services. And in fact, It may be Vladimir Putin's most powerful weapon in the global hybrid war aimed at destabilizing the world. Think about it. We know that Pavel Durov left Russia years ago and holds citizenship in France, the UAE, and St. Kitts and Nevis. But Durov's connections to Russia continue to raise questions like, who's really invested in Telegram's ton cryptocurrency? Russians David Yakubashvili and oligarch Roman Abramovich both have close ties with the Kremlin. Additionally, Arab funds, known for their collaboration with Russians, have also invested in Telegram. Two UAE-based investment funds, Mubadala and Abu Dhabi Catalyst Partners, which is a collaboration between Mubadala and Falcon Edge Capital, purchased $150 million worth of Telegram bonds. Mubadala, in particular, has a significant investment history in Russia, including ventures into Pulkovo Airport, the international airport out of Old St. Pete's, Cybur, a leading petrochemical company in Russia, and Inplus, a major energy and metals company out of Russia, and Gazprom Neft, one of the largest natural gas producers. Another interesting development occurred when Russian authorities wrote off fines previously imposed on Telegram and Western tech firms in early 2024. While Telegram denied knowledge of this, they always do, and indeed lacks a physical presence in Russia, connections persist through financial ties, technological resources, and personnel. Thus, Russia continues to find ways to invest in Telegram despite apparent obstacles. Interesting. And Telegram still relies on Russian companies to manage its data traffic, which could allow the Russian government, to maybe spy on or control conversations. There have been times when information on Telegram has been deleted or disappeared mysteriously, especially during important events. This means that using Telegram, especially in places like war zones, could expose users' private messages and locations to the Russian government. Because of this, Ukrainian officials and experts are switching to other apps to protect their information and national security. Next on the evidence board is whether these groups could be the very same connected wallets that mined 85% of the ton supply in July and August of 2020. Wow, it happened so fast. But first, make sure to check out my affiliate link for Femex. Link is in the description below. You can leverage trade and you get a plow ID too, and you can do it legally. Here's a 10-second recap of everything you need to know about Toncoin before we get into who owns the most of it. Toncoin, with the ticker TON, is the native cryptocurrency of the Open Network, a blockchain project originally developed by the founders of Telegram. TON initially launched with a unique proof-of-work mining model where users could compete to validate transactions and earn rewards. However, TON transitioned to a proof-of-stake model in June of 2022, ending the mining process. As of now, the total supply of TON is 5 billion, with a circulating supply of approximately 2 billion. TON was officially launched on July 6, 2020, marking the start of its initial mining phase. TON was open for mining from July 2020 to June 2022, and most of these tokens were obtained by a small group of people connected to the Telegram team. These early miners still hold most of the tokens, which are now worth billions of dollars. These miners are divided into 7 groups, and it seems they work together to get the tokens. The first group mined July 6th to July 30th. They're comprised of 36 addresses that started mining from the first day each of the addresses received the first reward between July 6th and July 7th, and they ended mining on July 30th. Second group mined from July 30th to August 24th. The previous group of 36 nodes ended mining on July 30th. Right after turning off all of the 36 nodes on the evening of July 30th, a new group of 26 nodes was launched on the same day. The last reward that the first group received is dated 8:24:59 p.m. on July 30th, and the first reward that the second group received is dated 8:25:47 p.m. July 30th, meaning there was only a 48-second gap without mining rewards between these two groups. The third group mined from July 6th to August 24th. The fourth group mined from July 19th to August 24th. And it was a group of 17 miner addresses that we connect to the previous one. All addresses from this group received the first reward on July 19th and ended mining on August 24th. And they mined another 0.859 billion ton tokens, which is 17.2% of the supply. This article goes on to describe 7 groups, all that are tightly connected either through mutual transactions or through intermediate addresses. They all have strong ties to the TON Foundation, the organization behind the currency. The concentration of wealth and connections raises questions about how fair and independent the TON currency really is. Additionally, a significant portion of the validators who outrun TON Network are linked to these early miners. There's a lot of money in a country where the economy is tightly controlled by the Kremlin. So we can't just assume that clever miners connected to the TON Foundation are just holding billions of dollars without Russian intervention. After all, the Kremlin wields extensive control over the Russian economy through a variety of mechanisms, like state-owned enterprises, or SOEs. The Russian government owns and controls major companies in key sectors like energy, finance, and defense. These SOEs often dominate their respective industries, giving the Kremlin significant influence over economic decisions and resource allocation, and regulatory control. The Kremlin has extensive regulatory powers over various sectors, including banking, energy, and telecommunications. This allows them to control pricing, licensing, and market access, thus shaping the economic landscape to their advantage. They also control political influence. The Kremlin exerts significant political influence over private companies through informal networks, patronage, and pressure tactics. This can lead to companies aligning their decisions with the Kremlin's interests, even if it's not economically optimal. Russia emphasizes resource nationalism, where Russia's economy heavily relies on Kremlin-controlled natural resources, particularly oil and gas, through state-owned companies and regulations, using them as a tool for both domestic economic policy and geopolitical leverage. There is financial system control in Russia, where the Central Bank of Russia, while formally independent, often acts in alignment with the Kremlin's policy goals. This allows the government to influence monetary policy, exchange rates, and the banking sector, further consolidating their control over the economy. The Russian legal and judicial framework is also under Kremlin influence, which can be used to target businesses or individuals who oppose their interests. This creates an environment where economic actors are incentivized to comply with the Kremlin's wishes. And finally, the Kremlin has media and information control in Russia as well, where state-controlled media outlets dominate the information landscape in Russia. It's no different than here. But this allows the Kremlin to shape public opinion about economic policies and control the narrative around economic performance. So how is it possible that all this money was generated in Russia and yet it's totally decentralized and independent from Kremlin control? Newsflash, guys, it's not. And if the Kremlin controls Russia, guess who controls the Kremlin? That's right, Vladimir Putin, who we can logically assume could hold some of the biggest ton wallets. And the plan could be to use the ton blockchain, who knows, for BRICS Pay. I'm not sure. If you don't already know, BRICS is an acronym for an association of 5 major emerging economies: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Many more countries are joining. Originally coined as BRIC without South Africa by a Goldman Sachs economist in 2001, it was believed these economies would dominate global growth by 2050. Since then, BRICS has evolved into a formal intergovernmental organization with annual summits and multilateral policies. Their goals include economic cooperation, geopolitical influence. They act as a counterbalance to traditional Western influence and establish a multipolar world order. They create alternative global institutions, such as a new global reserve currency to challenge the dominance of the US dollar. Recently, the group has expanded to include 6 new members: Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and UAE. But of course, Saudi Arabia has bounced back and forth. I don't know if they're official or not. Who even knows anymore? They play in the middle because of a defense contract with Lockheed. But while there hasn't been an official announcement confirming that BRICS Pay will be exclusively built on blockchain, there are strong indications that blockchain technology will play a significant role in its development. And I'm here to tell you I believe it is going to be on blockchain, period. Several sources suggest that BRICS countries are actively exploring the use of blockchain and digital currencies to create a new payment system that's independent of the US dollar. Here's what we know so far. First, there have been direct statements from officials. Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov has stated that creating an independent BRICS payment system based on state-of-the-art tools such as digital technologies and blockchain is an important goal, they're telling you. And how can you forget? They probably own the majority of the Thun blockchain. There have also been various news outlets that have reported on BRICS' plan to develop a blockchain-based payment system. And lastly, talk of a BRICS Pay project. Now that's going to propose a blockchain-based payment service for settlements using digital financial assets. Right now, the link between BRICS Pay and Ton is only speculation, but we're going to continue connecting the dots and digging deep. So I got to be blessed. BitBoy out.